Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast, the only show that tracks the Straw Hats' journey from the East Blue to the ends of the world.
Today we are discussing Chapter 224, Don't Dream.
And what a title. This chapter, it's a hard one to read. We see our captain, the man who took down a warlord, get absolutely beaten and humiliated in a bar full of nobodies.
And he just takes it. He doesn't throw a single punch. That's the real shock.
It's one of the most important character moments for Luffy so far, and it's not even a fight. It's a test of will, a clash of philosophies, all happening over sticky floors and cheap booze. If you want to stick with us as we unpack every single one of these moments on the Grand Line, make sure your log pose is pointing right at our feed. You don't want to get lost out here.
Let's begin. The chapter opens on the streets of Mock Town, and the mood is already tense.
Yeah, right away we're hearing about this guy, Bellamy the Hyena. Apparently he just destroyed some poor pirate named Roshio the Executioner in the middle of the street. It's not even a story being told with reverence. It's just street gossip. This is a town where that kind of violence is background noise. It's like hearing someone complain about the price of cabbage. It just tells you everything you need to know about the moral compass of this place. There isn't one.
It's the ultimate pirate haven in the most literal and bleak sense. There are no marines, no laws beyond the law of the strongest. We've seen lawless places before, but they usually had some kind of internal code. The Bharati had Zeph's rule. Whiskey Peak had its secret. Mock Town has nothing but cynical opportunism. It's a town of hyenas, which makes Bellamy's epithet all the more fitting. He's not a lion or a tiger. He's the king of the scavengers.
And what a name, Roshio the Executioner. Sounds like a tough customer, right? But Bellamy took him out for his gold, and nobody even batted an eye. It establishes the pecking order immediately. And what's the first thing they say about Bellamy?
That he must be a devil fruit user. They're establishing his credentials before we even meet him. He's not just a brawler, he has a power. Mocktown respects power and nothing else. Bounty, reputation, and devil fruit abilities. That is the entire currency of this island. It's a brutal meritocracy with very narrow definitions of merit.
And then we cut to the bar, and there he is. He walks right up to Luffy and says, "You're the 30 million belly straw hat, right?" The air just goes cold. You can feel everyone in the room turn to look. The background chatter just dies. That bounty, which was a badge of honor and a sign of Luffy's growing threat to the world government, is now a target painted on his back in a place like this.
The other pirates in the bar are whispering about it. They can't believe this skinny kid has a bounty that high. It's the same reaction we've seen since the East Blue. No one takes Luffy seriously on sight. They see a skinny teenager in a vest and sandals. They don't see the force of nature that toppled Arlong, or the man who declared war on an entire kingdom in Drum, or the warrior who defeated Sir Crocodile. They only see the surface, which is a core tenet of Mock Town.
Luffy's reaction is perfect, though. The look on his face is completely blank. He's just looking at this giant guy and thinking about all the other big guys he's met today. He is completely unintimidated. It's not even on his radar that this is a threat. His internal monologue is literally just, "There's another big guy." That's it. He has zero threat assessment skills when it comes to social situations.
It's because he assesses people based on their spirit, not their posture. He's not feeling any real kingly ambition from Bellamy, no true threat to his dream. So Bellamy barely registers as more than a piece of furniture. It's a fascinating insight into how Luffy perceives the world.
And Bellamy proves him wrong immediately. As soon as Luffy takes a drink, his head is slammed face first into the bar counter. Just bam! No warning, no reason, just pure nasty violence. The impact is just massive. It's not a tap, it's an explosion of wood and force.
The whiplash is intense. 1 second, it's a tense but seemingly civil introduction. The next, Luffy is being brutalized for sport. And the most chilling part is Bellamy's expression. He's smiling. He's enjoying it. This is his entertainment.
And Zoro, man, that's the first mate. Before the splinters from the bar have even settled, he's got his sword at Bellamy's throat. No hesitation. It happens in a blur of motion. It's pure instinct. He sees his captain attacked and his only instinct is to eliminate the threat. This isn't a thought process, it's a reflex. It's like his arm moving to block a punch. Captain in danger, threat appears, threat is neutralized. End of story.
That's the loyalty of the crew in a single motion. It's reflexive. Defending Luffy isn't a choice for Zoro. It's just what happens. And think about what that means. Zoro is a man who values his swords and his ambition above almost everything. But the safety of his captain is so ingrained in him that drawing his sword is as natural as breathing. We saw it in Logtown against the Buggy Pirates. We saw it against Mr. Five in Whiskey Peak. It's his primary function.
It's super cool, but Nami stops him. She's still thinking about the mission. She's the voice of reason, reminding him they came here for information on the Sky Island, and starting a huge brawl in the first bar they enter is not the way to get it. She just says his name, Zoro, and he actually stops. That's another level of trust right there. He trusts Nami's judgment enough to pause, even when his blood is boiling.
It's a tough moment for her, too. You know she wants to see Bellamy get what he deserves, but she's always playing the long game. She has to be the strategist. She's the navigator, not just of the ship, but of their path forward. She knows that a fight here derails everything. They're in a town full of pirates with unknown powers. A single fight could turn into a war, and it's just the three of them.
Luffy gets up, wipes his face, and just says, "Get ready." And the whole bar starts cheering. They're just bloodthirsty. They don't care who wins. They just want to see a show. This town is completely rotten. They're not on anyone's side. They're on the side of violence. It's their version of a gladiatorial match.
Bellamy just laughs. He says this isn't a fight, it's a test. He was considering letting Luffy join his crew, this new age of pirates. The sheer arrogance of that statement is staggering.
A test? What, you test people's loyalty by smashing their face into a table? This guy's ego is off the charts. He thinks he's in a position to recruit the man who beat Crocodile. The lack of awareness is stunning. He genuinely believes that his way, this new age of practical, dreamless piracy, is the future, and that Luffy should be grateful for the opportunity to join him. He can't even conceive of the fact that he's a guppy in a pond where Luffy just took down a shark.
It's because he only believes in what he can see. He sees a 30 million bounty, which to him probably doesn't seem all that impressive. He sees a skinny kid. He likely hasn't seen the reports from Alabaster yet, or if he has, he doesn't believe them. Because a story like that, of a rookie taking down a warlord to save a kingdom, sounds too much like a dream, a fairy tale, and he doesn't believe in those.
It's here that Nami decides to take control of the situation. She interrupts everyone and asks the bartender flat out about the Sky Island. She's trying to do what she does best, navigate. Not the seas, but the social situation. She's trying to steer the conversation away from violence and back to their goal.
She's trying to de-escalate by redirecting, to bring it back to their original purpose. It's a smart tactical move in most situations. She's appealing to the one thing that should unite everyone in the bar, the pursuit of information, the exchange of goods and services. A bartender is supposed to be a source of information. It's a logical, calculated risk.
And the silence is just chilling. You could hear a pin drop. The entire bar just stares at her. The Straw Hats themselves look confused, like, "Nami, what are you doing right now?" You get this incredible moment of just stunned, silent faces. The tension ratchets up to an unbearable level.
She misjudges the room completely. She assumed a baseline of pirate pragmatism, but she didn't account for the aggressive and forced cynicism of Mocktown. She introduced an element of fantasy and wonder into a room that has violently rejected both.
And then the laughter starts. It's not just a little chuckle. It's this huge, ugly, mocking laughter from every single person in the room. They're rolling on the floor, pointing at her, at them. It's an explosion of derision. The art shows it so well with these exaggerated, grotesque laughing faces.
They treat the very idea of a Sky Island as the stupidest thing they have ever heard. They tell her log poses go nuts all the time. They're not just dismissing her, they're humiliating her for daring to believe in something that sounds impossible. It's a deep psychological attack. It's not just you're wrong, it's you're a fool for even asking.
It's just so cruel. Nami's genuinely trying to follow this incredible mystery, this compass pointing to the heavens, and she's treated like a naive child. This is coming right after she saw a ship fall from the sky and found a 200-year-old map of a place called Skypia. She has evidence, but in this room, evidence doesn't matter if it contradicts their worldview. It must be so frustrating and heartbreaking for her.
This is the core of Mocktown's ideology. If it's not something you can see, steal, or drink, it's not real. It's a town built entirely on cynical materialism. Dreams, legends, and impossible goals are liabilities. They distract you from the tangible reality of gold and power. They see her question not as a search for knowledge, but as a sign of weakness.
And Bellamy just feeds on it. He loves it. This is his home turf, his philosophy being validated by the entire room. He starts his big speech. He cackles how the age of pirate dreams is over. He says the great treasures of the world, even One Piece, are all fairy tales for fools.
This is the central theme of the arc clicking into place. It's a direct philosophical assault on everything Luffy represents. Bellamy is the anti-Luffy. He believes dreams make you weak. He believes that the new age is about tangible plunder, about raiding towns and accumulating wealth, not about chasing some mythical treasure at the end of the sea. He's the pirate who looked at the Grand Line and saw only an opportunity for profit, not adventure.
He's everything wrong with the world. He's taken the freedom of being a pirate and turned it into a boring, cruel job. And to punctuate his point, he smashes a liquor bottle right over Luffy's head. And Luffy just stands there. He doesn't even flinch. He's just enduring it. It's a conscious choice. This is no longer just a bar scuffle. It's a symbolic stoning. They're trying to beat the dream out of him. Then the whole bar joins in. It's a frenzy. They start throwing bottles, food, garbage at all three of them, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. They're yelling at them to get lost, that their very presence, the presence of dreamers, is making their rum taste bad.
That line is so specific and so cutting. Your faces are making our booze taste bad. It means that the existence of hope is an insult to their hopeless lives. They have to stamp it out because it reminds them of what they've given up on. It's easier to mock a dream than to face the fact that you abandoned your own. Luffy is a walking, breathing indictment of their cynicism, and they cannot stand it.
Sarkis, Bellamy's right-hand man with the weird glasses, tells him the bar wants to see a show, and Bellamy agrees. He's going to beat them down for the entertainment of the crowd. He cracks his knuckles, and you can see he's going to relish every second of it. He's not just a pirate, he's a performer, and his stage is this disgusting bar.
And this is where Nami breaks. She's been the pragmatic one, the one holding them back. But seeing her friends covered in garbage, being pelted and mocked for her dream, the dream she asked them to help her pursue, she can't take it. The strategic mind gives way to the protective heart.
She tells them, forget the promise, beat them up. She gives them permission to unleash hell, and you know Zoro is just waiting for the word. His hand is probably already on his hilt. That's all the reason he needs. The mission is secondary now to defending his crew's dignity.
But Luffy looks at Zoro, just a glance. He's still on the floor, covered in trash, and he says the line, "Zoro, don't ever buy this fight."
Chills every single time. He doesn't yell it. He says it so calmly, so matter-of-factly. And Zoro, who was seconds away from cutting this whole bar in half, just looks at his captain and understands. He sheathes his sword. The sound of that sword clicking back into its scabbard is louder than all the shouting in the bar.
That's the moment. That's the whole chapter. It's not a fight about strength. It's a fight about ideals. To engage with Bellamy on his level, to trade punches with him, would be to admit that his philosophy is worthy of a response. It would be acknowledging that his taunts have weight, that his worldview is a legitimate challenge to their own.
It's Luffy saying, you are so far beneath me that you aren't even worth my anger. He's not just some brawler you can goad into a street fight. He's on a different plane of existence. This isn't a challenge, it's a gnat buzzing in his ear. To fight Bellamy here would be like a lion getting into a shouting match with a hyena. The lion doesn't need to prove anything, it just walks away.
By refusing to fight, he completely invalidates Bellamy's entire worldview. Bellamy thinks the ultimate measure of a man is a fight. His power, his bounty, his crew, it's all built on his ability to physically dominate others. Luffy shows him that true strength is knowing which fights aren't worth your time. He wins by doing nothing. He robs Bellamy of the one thing he craves, a victory that proves his cynical philosophy is correct.
It's the ultimate callback to Chapter 1, right? Shanks and the Mountain Bandits. Shanks gets a bottle smashed over his head, gets beer poured on him, and he just laughs it off. He tells Luffy, it's just some booze, nothing to get angry over. This is Luffy now, a captain himself, living that lesson. He learned from Shanks that a real pirate doesn't rise to every petty challenge. He saves his anger, his power, for the fights that truly matter. The fights for his friends' lives, for their dreams. This isn't one of them.
Exactly. He's not fighting for his own pride. His pride isn't that fragile. This is a monumental step in his development as a captain and as a person. He understands the difference between an insult and a true threat. Bellamy is an insult. Crocodile was a threat. Luffy knows how to distinguish between the two.
This is the kind of strength that makes Luffy terrifying. It's not about how hard he can punch, it's his conviction. He knows who he is, he knows what his dream is, and the opinions of a whole town of laughing fools mean less than nothing to him. They can throw all the garbage they want. It won't touch his spirit. Super.
It's also an incredible display of trust between him and Zoro. Zoro doesn't need an explanation. He doesn't ask, why, Captain? The captain gave an order and the first mate obeys, because he trusts his captain's judgment implicitly. Zoro might be seething, he might hate every second of it, but his loyalty is absolute. He recognizes the wisdom in Luffy's command, even if his swordsman's pride is screaming at him to fight.
Absolutely. He knows there's a reason. He might not get it in the moment, but he doesn't need to. That's the bond. We saw it when he bowed to Mihawk, and we see it here. He will endure any humiliation if it's what his captain commands for the sake of their goal. Super. That is just a super moment of character for the whole crew.
And it leaves us on this incredibly tense hangover. They're standing there, taking the abuse, with a promise not to fight back. Bellamy's winding up for a real beating. Where can they possibly go from here?
Speaking of Oda's notes, I love his little author's comment this week. He talks about spilling his ink for the first time ever, a whole bottle of it. For a manga artist, that's like a baker dropping their entire supply of flour. It's a catastrophe.
But his desk is so cluttered with stuff, manuscripts, references, models, that the ink couldn't even spread. It was contained by the chaos. A moat of creativity protected the rest of his workspace.
It's just such a perfect little window into the life of a manga creator. A potential disaster just becomes a funny story because his workspace is an organized mess. It's a nice little moment of levity after a really heavy chapter. It pulls you out of the griminess of Mock Town and reminds you there's a guy in a room, probably surrounded by junk food wrappers, drawing all of this.
It really is. It's a reminder of the human element behind this intense story. The controlled chaos on his desk mirroring the controlled chaos he writes on the page.
All right, before we get into what's next, if this chapter gave you as much to think about as it gave us, go ahead and drop a comment with your take on Luffy's decision. Was it the right move? Would you have done the same? We read every single one.
So, predictions for chapter 225. I'll start. I think we're going to meet the person this town is actually afraid of. Bellamy acts like he runs the place, but he mentioned being part of a crew under a bigger flag. We might meet his captain, or at least hear his name. The new age he talks about must have a figurehead, and it's not him. There's always a bigger fish.
Ooh, I like that. The bigger fish. It would make sense. This guy is too loud and arrogant to be the final boss of this island. For my first one, I think Nami is going to be the one to find their next lead. She was just publicly humiliated for her dream, for asking about Skypiea. I think that's going to make her more determined than ever. She's going to find the one other person in Mocktown who's an outcast, the one person who actually knows something and was too afraid to speak up in that bar, the town weirdo who everyone else laughs at.
That feels very plausible. My second prediction is that we'll meet Marshall D. Teach, Blackbeard. I have this theory that he's here. This chapter was about one twisted version of piracy, the cynical, materialistic version clashing with Luffy's. Blackbeard would represent another, far more dangerous version, the patient, ruthless, ambitious dreamer who plays the long game. Thematically, it feels like the right time for him to appear, to provide a third point on the triangle of pirate philosophy.
Man, that would be something. That would really raise the stakes. My last prediction is a little simpler, and it's more about the immediate aftermath. I think the chapter ends with the three of them walking out of that bar, covered in booze and filth. Someone, maybe Nami, will be upset, but Luffy and Zoro will just be completely stone-faced. And then Luffy will just say something like, "I'm hungry," and they'll just find another spot to get some food. They'll act like absolutely nothing happened, just to completely underscore how meaningless that entire confrontation was to them. It would be the ultimate power move.
A quiet display of defiance. I like that. It would show that Bellamy didn't just fail to beat them, he failed to even leave a mark on their spirit.
Exactly. Well, we'll have to see who was right next time. Until then, keep your eyes on the horizon and never stop dreaming. This has been Inherited Dawn.
We'll see you on the next tide.